we all got screwed by justice, unjust system at the same time, in the amount of time that they gave us, incarcerated for something that we had nothing to do with.
Right.
We had nothing to do with the crime that we was accused of.
Right. Yo, don't come back here. You don't want to be in the situation I'm in. Trying to empower them, putting positive energy out there, understanding that when you apply the biblical scripture, you do good, good will happen to you. And I was preparing myself, not just to win my case, but I was preparing myself when I got home, what was my next step. Fighting to clear my mother's name, because I was like, my mother didn't raise the person that you guys made me out to be. And I told myself, I'm not in prison, I'm at work. I just have to work 24 hours a day. So I treated prison like it was a job. I didn't treat prison like I was in prison. Having knowledge by itself is not good enough. If you're not willing to apply what you know to get the remedy that you're seeking, then it don't make no sense of knowing. Most people think the system don't work. The system works, right? And you have to believe that the system works, because if you fight in a system that you don't believe works, then you basically fighting a no-losing battle, was that I come home, and actually when I was litigating my case, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna become a lawyer. That was my thing. I'm like, yo, I'm gonna dive into this.
I remember you saying many times, like, you know what?
Be a lawyer.
I'm gonna get my own, go to Blackstone law. You know what I'm saying? Become a paralegal,
all that stuff.
You know what I mean? Get that done. You know what I'm saying? Then I'm going for the bar.
And I did most of it. And it came to the time when I was going to get the law degree. I was doing a correspondence course out of California, and the corrections wasn't allowing it. So it kind of stopped me. But my idea was, when I get home, that I wanted to continue it because I was passionate about the fighting. Right. So I get home, and then reality hit. Because there was no more like free clothes. There was no free toothpaste. You know, you had to shower. You had to have bar soap, and you're coming into an environment where you are just not. I'm pretty sure you or myself. I'm not dependent. I don't want to feel like dependent on other people. So putting that burden on my family, and then at the same time your own family, like having, well, shit, shit costs expensive. You eat too much. All this stuff. So now I was like, okay, I got to find my own identity. I can't really kind of reach back and help the way I thought I was going to help. What I need to do is I need to figure out something to kind of make a career for myself. Right. Now, this is before lawsuit. This is before all this stuff. Lawsuit was just something in the back of your mind that you hoped would come. But if it didn't come, you still had to figure out what you were going to do to take care of yourself. So that's when I said, that's when real estate resurfaced, because prior to me going in, I had already gotten a real estate, and I was already into real estate. And then when I got arrested, that dream was taken away. But I was going that way because I said, I want to figure out how to empower people or individuals like myself that were raised by single moms. And I always saw, when I looked at my neighborhood and I looked at my group of friends, and I say, hey, these group of friends, they were able to make it out. They went to college, they got good careers, they're doing this. This group of friends got caught up. They didn't make it past 25. What was the difference? And then when I analyzed the difference, I saw home ownership was the difference. I had a couple good friends, their parents owned homes. They went on, one of them became a lawyer, one of them is a pastor now, one of them, they got degrees in school. Then I had a group of friends, they didn't have home ownership in their life. They didn't know nothing about home ownership. They didn't know nothing about credit. They didn't know nothing. The streets was their whole life. That's all they knew. They didn't go outside of the neighborhood. In the neighborhood is the only thing they knew. I had the privilege of knowing a little bit both, right? And I said, I want to become a real estate agent. And the reason I wanted to become a real estate agent is because I wanted to empower single moms, because I felt by having an asset like real estate, you can provide bridges to get your kids out of those inner cities and into those areas where opportunities actually exist.
Like, that's amazing, because many times being thrust in a situation like we're thrust in, coming home, like you said, we have nothing. Not a hole in the wall or a window to throw the rest out of it. And then to grab yourself up by the bootstraps, get yourself right, position yourself to whereas you can be in a position to look back and say, you know what, this is my way of giving back.
Yeah.
And then just the fact of you reaching out to me on numerous occasions. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yo, listen, man.
Yep.
I'm out here, you know what I'm saying? It's my number. If you need me, you know, call. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And, you know, we're prideful people. You know what I'm saying? Probably a little bit too much.
Right.
At times. But understanding, like, where the crisis that we are constantly hurled in. Because we was in crisis mode being incarcerated for something that we had nothing to do with.
Right.
We had nothing to do with the
Right.
crime that we was accused of.
Right.
So you didn't have time to really get your mind situated on how you're going to moving forward.
Yes and no. Right?
Outside of, you know what I'm saying, like, yo, I'm going to get this, you know what I'm saying, legal degree and, you know what I'm saying,
and go forward.
Right.
So, and this is what I realized about the severity of what happened to brothers like you versus the severity that happened to me, because I didn't go until I was 29.
Right.
So I already went in with a level of
a maturity.
intellect, some little maturity. I was already already knew what real estate was about. Right. So when I got home, it was easy for me to jump right back into it. Right. So
you knew something.
It becomes second nature. It was like, wow. Right.
Okay.
And then when I come across brothers like yourself that went in when they were a lot younger.
Right.
And didn't have the opportunity
Right.
to develop those skills. Right. Coming out of school.
Right.
I always knew that it was a lot harder.
Right.
Because their lives were taken, you know, how old was you when you went in?
I was 21.
21 years old, right? 21 years old, but intellectually at that time, when you're 21, we're running the streets. Right? I went in when I was like 29, right? So there's a different experience factor.
Right.
So I was preparing myself, not just to win my case, but I was preparing myself when I got home, what was my next step.
Right.
So when I got home, I immediately was able to get my real estate license within 60 days of my release, because I just went right back to the school that I had started with prior to going in.
I want to walk you back.
Yeah.
Stay there, like, you know, mentally. Remember where you at, because me, you, and Natural Malik Jones.
I remember that.
We were on trial at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, you're first,
Yeah.
Malik was second, and I was third.
Yeah.
And we all got screwed by unjust system at the same time, and the amount of time that they gave us collectively adds up to like almost 400 years.
Yeah.
Like, you have numbers that you can never start nor finish.
Yeah.
And then to have the humbleness to say, you know what, this ain't the end all the be all. I'm not going to allow these people to just do what they want to do. I'm getting in there, and I'm going to get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to know from A to Z.
I remember, man, when I was out on bond and I was living in Atlanta, Georgia, so I was going back and forth to court. And I lost my probable cause hearing, and they revoked my bond. Malik was the first brother I met in there, and he was coming to trial. And then you afterwards. And we, at that time, I had already said to myself, once we got to the point of trial and they reached the verdict, I had already told the courts and the prosecutors that I'm going to live through this.
Yeah.
I'm going to get out. I'm like, yo, that 120 years, and they gave me 120 years running consecutive, so 240 years altogether. I was like, that didn't mean shit to me. I like knocked that out of my head immediately as soon as they gave it to me. I was like, that's nothing. I'm about to come through. And that's where that arrogance came in. And I remember my mom's always telling me, boy, you so fucking hard-headed. But being hard-headed paid off. Because now no one could tell me anything. And I wasn't allowing the court system, even though they had sentenced me to that grave amount. It was no way they wasn't telling me I wasn't walking home.
Right.
I had already said, even on the record in child support, I was like, I'm getting out of here. I'm
Right.
going to walk out of here. I'm going to prove to yourself I'm out of here. So having that kind of hard-headed terminology, what my mom would say, nobody could tell me, it actually empowered me at that time because it didn't break me. It just made me more determined.
Right, absolutely.
To kind of prove. Because not only was I fighting for myself, but I was also in a weird kind of way fighting to clear my mother's name because I was like, my mother didn't raise the person that you guys made me out to be. Right. So I was kind of fighting for her as well, fighting for the boys, fighting for the kids, fighting for all of them. I took all that on. So I got to clear my name, not just for me, but for all of them. Right. The family as a whole. Right. And that kind of gave me the fuel to kind of be like, yo, without for lack of better words, I was like, fuck y'all.
Right.
I'm coming out of this.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to prove myself innocent. Had no idea how I was going to do it, but I just knew that the truth would prevail. And then this is where you kind of have to apply those scriptures. And then I said to myself, I even literally said to myself when I got in the cell, how the hell did you get here? And I really had to start examining my steps. And then I got in touch with energy.
Right.
And I realized that, you know what, Scott? You were doing some negative stuff out there.
Yeah.
Right? And as a result of that, something negative happened to you.
Right.
I was definitely innocent. I didn't do what I was accused of.
Absolutely.
But I was doing some negative stuff.
Angel.
Right. So I started saying, okay, how do I change the energy? So I was out there doing negative stuff, feeding stuff to people that I shouldn't have been doing for the sake of trying to make some money. And as a result of that, this is where I found myself being accused of something I didn't do.
Right.
But nevertheless, the energy that I was putting in the world at that time was negative.
Right.
So I said, how do I change that? So I started doing positive stuff.
Right.
So that's when I started encountering brothers like yourself, brothers like me.
Right.
And I was always looking for a way, how can I help these brothers? How can I help anybody?
Right.
But, so I got in the library. People were coming. I had, I'm 240 years. You have brothers coming in with 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I'm looking for ways to try to help them. Like, yo, don't come back here. You don't want to be in the situation I'm in. Trying to empower them, putting positive energy out there, understanding that when you apply the biblical scripture, you do good will happen to you. And that's what happened, man.
And to your point, I believe that God makes no mistakes. You know what I'm saying? Like, we had a rough way to go.
Right.
No, you can't even shy away from that.
Right.
The time that the atmosphere, the air was different when we came in. Especially being from on the top of the food chain.
Yeah.
Then, you know what I'm saying, people know who you know, your name is out there. Now people want to try you just because you got this name.
Right.
How was that experience walking through prison? You know what I'm saying?
I had a unique experience, man.
Right.
I had no problems. Like, I went through that joint ticket free.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I ate with everybody. I ate with brothers from New Haven, brothers from Harvard, black, white, Mexican. It didn't matter.
Right.
And then I had a lot of brothers from the New Haven where we were from. Like, yo, why would you sit with these brothers from Harvard, yada, yada? Because I never joined up with a clique.
Right.
I was never part of a gang, any of that, right? And I said, listen, man, I'm from New Haven, but I'm the son of my mother.
Right.
Like, New Haven didn't birth me.
Right.
Like, I'm not allegiant to one clique.
Right.
Like, I'm an individual. I'm not I'm not a gangbanger. I don't do all that.
Right.
I said I hear what they wrote about you, but what they wrote about me was totally false.
Right.
I got in the game making a little money because I was trying to move my family out of the city. I wasn't trying to be like the king of the city. Right. And so with that, when I had that attitude, I didn't really have an allegiance to a group of people because I always ran with a small group of people.
Right.
And the people I ran with was mostly good people. Right. We weren't like Stefan, one of my best friends, like my brother now. We were always good people to other people. We weren't like monsters. Right. And I think as a result of that, I was always able to, my natural gift is to make friends with people. No matter where you're from, no matter what color you are, no matter nothing. And I don't know what it is, but God was certainly protecting me because I didn't have any of that as an issue.
Right.
I had none of it, right? And that was for 20 years, man. And I've met friends, from every part of every town in Connecticut, even freaking CEOs. I end up becoming friends. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I just think that personality just kind of carried me through that. But I also said in my mind, and I touched upon it in the documentary at one point, and I said, I told myself I'm not in prison, I'm at work. I just have to work 24 hours a day. So I treated prison like it was a job. I didn't treat prison like I was in prison. And then what I realized about prison, and this is going to sound crazy, but I was like, the fact that I was restricted allowed me to concentrate.
Absolutely.
Right? Because it was very little that you can do. So that restriction actually allowed me to sharpen everything that was going on in here. Because I wasn't being a part of the prison. I would play ball and all that stuff, but I wasn't being a part of what was going on there. I was there, but I wasn't there. Right?
Absolutely.
So I think that in the fact that I think most of the brothers there, I would say if not all the brothers there, they kind of know. Like people know the streets know what's going on.
Absolutely.
The streets know who we are. Maybe the large public or the police, they may not know. But I think a lot of the brothers, most of the brothers in there knew that Scott Lewis wasn't the Scott Lewis they were trying to make me be because I wasn't in those sets with those dudes, right? So for me, that was the easy part, man. And then just focusing on helping people no matter where they was coming from. It didn't matter. That's the benefit I had working in the library, just seeing everybody from everywhere and just kind of setting the tone that I was somebody that was going to try to help you.
I used to be in the library, come to the library, grab it. Yo, Scott, I don't see the digest. I don't see, and you're like, it's out right now, but, I'll try to get it to you. You know what I'm saying? And I used to be amazed because I'm like, I know this brother stay working on his case. You know what I'm saying? But you see like 25 people lined up, trying to get your attention because at that time, it was dwindling on the people that was really vast or knowledgeable in law. Even, us being knowledgeable, we like bouncing ideas and certain...
Iron sharpening iron.
Exactly, you know what I'm saying? So, like, if I run across you, hey, what you think about Kyle versus Whitley? Something like that, you know what I'm saying?
I can't even believe you remember that.
Listen, Total Counties, you know what I'm saying? Like, man, listen, man, you certain chronic versus, you know what I'm saying? Chronic. You, man, certain cases are etched in your brain because you lived and you ate it, you know what I'm saying? Like, and you knew the people that, you know what I'm saying, which was a very small community, that really was on point when it came to, you know what I'm saying, cases or cases coming down the pipe. That was something that you wanted to get your hands on. And now coming home for the 2 and 4 months that I've been home, I see the need that many of us had, like the crisis that we're still in, and the pain that I feel for the brothers that's still there. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, what do we do? What can I do? And that's what thrust me in the position now of trying to bring awareness to something that I feel as though near and dear, and where people are still in a crisis of needing help and the right avenue to shoot down.
It's so funny that you say that. Not funny that you say that in the sense that it's funny, but funny that you say that because it's real, right? Because I meet brothers to this very day who sometimes I don't even remember. And I run into them and say, yo, Brother Scott, man, I remember you, man. Yo, thank you for boom, boom, boom. Thank you for that. And I used to always tell Brother Malik, and I told yourself as well, I was like, yo, empower yourself. Like, find out this stuff for yourself. Don't believe what other people tell you. I don't care if it's your lawyer. I don't give a fuck who it is. Right? Validate what that lawyer is telling you is truth, and understand it for yourself. Because when you understand it for yourself, it's hard for other people to take you left, right, or sinner.
Can't
right?
lead you by the nose.
You need to know that.
Right.
And the fact that you guys followed that, and the fact that you did that, and the fact that I followed, that's the application of knowledge, right?
Yes.
Because having knowledge by itself is
It's
not
just
good
not.
enough. If you're not willing to apply what
Right.
you know to get the remedy that you're seeking,
Yes.
then it don't make no sense of knowing,
Yes.
right? So we're here because we applied that, right? We always knew that we were
Right.
innocent,
Right.
right? But we're here because we applied what we learned about the legal system
Right.
to actually make the legal system work, right? Because most people think the system don't work.
Right.
The system works, right? And you have to believe that the system works, because if you fight in a system that you don't believe works, then you basically fighting a no losing
Right.
battle,
Right.
But you have to make it work correctly, and you have to
Right.
have that determination, and you got to take matters into your own hands,
Yes.
because if you're relying sometimes on what your lawyers are telling you, they're giving you advice,
Right.
right? But a lot of times, that advice is as great as it is. They're just trying to close a case.
Right. They don't. Let's face it. They don't have the time,
Yeah.
the resources. 9 times out of 10, because they have 25 other cases
Yeah.
that they're dealing with. And even if he's a private attorney, he's trying to, you know what I'm saying,
Do the same thing.
Trying to do the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So you're on this cycle of repetitiveness.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? What do I do to change the narrative and the outcome?
Only
You know what
thing
I'm
you
saying?
can do, brother, is let your voice be heard,
Right.
and let these brothers know, take matters in their own hands,
You have to.
right? Because whenever you become dependent on another person to save you, you actually become powerless.
Right. Right.
And I know that's hard to kind of grasp, but people need to take control of their lives and take matters in their own hands, and that starts with educating themselves about whatever it is that they're involved in. They
Right.
need to educate themselves about
Right.
that,
Right.
and then apply what they learn to get the remedy and outcome that they want.
Absolutely.
Because if you're letting somebody else drive in the car, they're gonna take you where they want to take you.
Right. They're
Right.
the driver.
You need to drive the car, right?
Right.
You need to be in control of your own life. Utilize what is available to you. Learn how to operate it, and operate it in a way that's going to get you from point A to point B.
So how was it? I don't mean to pivot right
Yeah.
here. How was it as far as having family members stand by your side? What was that like?
That's family members, believe it or not, to me, are your greatest weakness.
Yes.
Because people from the outside will try to get to your family members, because the perception is that your family members are the closest to you.
Right.
Right. So those are the ones that can have the most influence.
Right.
Right. So when they try to use my mom to come at me, it's because they believe that she had the most
You
influence
try to
over
use
me.
your mom?
Well, yeah, because the lawyers will call my mother and say,
wow.
your son is a fool for representing himself. And I would say to my mother, no, I'm a fool if I don't stand up for
Right.
myself.
Right.
So tell that lawyer, whoever
Right.
called you,
Right. Stop
that
calling.
stop calling you, because I'm a man.
Right.
I'm not their little kid anymore.
Right. Right.
But that took a lot of courage.
Absolutely.
Right. So
Nobody wanted
and they
to make
and they
your mother-
went to my mother because they knew that if anybody had any influence
It's
over
her.
me, it would be her. Right? Any influence.
Right.
So that's why sometimes your family can become your weakest vessel, because people that are trying to destroy you
Right.
will go to them because they know the love that you have for them, that they can kind of creep into you and kind of you can let your guard down.
Right.
Right? So what I learned is you can't let your guard down, right? And sometimes you have to tell your family, no matter how much you love them, it's my way or no way.
Right. Right.
Period.
There's no
Right?
middle ground.
It doesn't mean you're not listening.
Right.
You're open, but it does mean that the experience that you have to get from where you were to where you are now is superhuman.
Right.
No one's done that.
Right. Right.
They didn't expect us to come home.
No.
No one's done that.
We was renting off.
We literally opened the doors
Right.
for everything that's going on in New Haven, where 8 or 9 brothers are able to come home.
Right.
Right?
Right.
That was unheard of.
Right.
Like when I went into federal court, my lawyers were saying, because at that time I had Yale Law School,
Right.
and I even told them, listen, I'm driving the car. You guys are just gonna tell the courts
Right.
what I need them to
Right.
say, and they agreed to that. Like less than 1% of people win federal habeas corpus. They don't just even get in.
Right.
And Brother Malik who we talked about, I said, Malik, I said, you got the case, you know the case, but you need to start speaking up for yourself.
Right.
Once you start doing that, things are gonna happen.
Right.
Man, he came home with the federal court. I got a call. He said, Scott, I followed your lead, man.
Yeah.
It worked.
Yeah.
It worked. You, the example,
Yo,
all this stuff. So,
I remember you making a copy of your case for me, and I'm stripping this case down. You know what I'm saying? And then I read Lieutenant Mike Sweeney.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And everything that he said.
Wow.
And I was like, man, it gives me goosebumps right now just thinking.
Yeah.
And that was the feeling, because I'm like, yes, my brother out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It didn't matter, you know what I'm saying, you reaching back, just you're out. You know what I'm saying? Like now you can reclaim your life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yo, I'm right behind him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't care what's going on. You know what I'm saying? I'm coming. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, and listen, man, the 22 hours, you know what I'm saying, of just sitting there on the bunk or going to the library, you know what I'm saying, and stripping, you know, the law down to fit what transpired in my life and what happened in the confines of that courthouse.
Right.
Or what an attorney didn't do. And many times the problem becomes people think that a lawyer is a lawyer so he can take you to trial.
Right.
Just because he's skilled in law don't mean he's capable of going to trial.
Right.
So you first got to understand that, and then when you start understanding that, and then understanding that the Latin part of the law, which is almost all the law, and then how the volumes work, how to shepherdize a case, and all these things. You know what I mean?
All that.
What? Listen, and it was tedious work. We didn't have a computer.
But you got to understand what made it even more tedious is we were doing it from fighting from the aspect of a wrongful conviction.
Right.
And that is kind of like 2 steps hurdle. And what I found in the system is they didn't argue innocence at the trial.
No.
Right? They just trying to say, oh, let's create a reasonable doubt.
No.
Motherfucker, I told you I'm innocent.
Right.
Why ain't we fighting
doubt.
innocent?
Yeah,
Why ain't we proving innocence?
Right.
Right? You're just trying to create, take the credibility of the witnesses away.
Yeah.
And you realize that when you go to criminal trial, there's 2 things the jury can find. Either they can find you either guilty or not guilty. But they can't find you innocent.
No.
Because when you go in there, there's no lawyer fighting for your innocence at the beginning. They're just trying to say either you're guilty or not guilty.
Right.
No, motherfucker, I'm innocent.
Right.
So why is it my defense being geared around proving my innocence?
Right.
They don't do that at the trial.
No.
At least that's not the practice that I've experienced. Your innocence don't come into question until you get the post-conviction.
Right.
And then you got to claim of innocence. But by then, the standard is so high. You got to, now your standard, and now you got to fight it even 3 times harder. Right? So what I would say to you, and what we would say to the brothers that are listening and are going through this, if you're innocent, prove your innocence from the beginning.
Right. Day one.
Don't wait until try to prove like reasonable doubt or whether you're not guilty. No, tell your lawyer to create evidence that establishes your innocence, and you let the jury and judge know that you're there not to say prove whether you're guilty or not guilty, but you're there to prove your innocence.
And to your point,
set the tone right off the rip.
You have to, because to your point, when you get into these habeas, the first thing the judge is going to say, and he's going to use against you, you had the ability to stand up and speak against, you know what I'm saying, what your attorney did. You know what I'm saying? If you felt as though he was doing wrong.
Right.
Now they talk with a forked tongue, because at the original trial, what they say is,
be quiet.
You know what I'm saying, you have an attorney that, you know what I'm saying, is guarding your rights.
Right.
So if he's guarding my rights, what happened from there to here? To whereas you're telling me I had the opportunity to stand up and talk for myself, defend, against what's being said.
Right.
So, and then what do you feel about Rockville? The habeas is going to Rockville.
Well, I mean, here's the reality, man. No matter where the habeas is played out, right, the standard is set for you to fail and not win.
Absolutely.
And I think you made a good point. the theory of law is so much different from the practice of law. And I learned to do the exact opposite. So if the law tells you in theory that you should or shouldn't do that, in practice, I do the opposite.
Right.
Because the intent in theory is to make you feel like the system is working for you.
Absolutely.
That's the trick.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
They always say, hey, you're innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
Motherfucker, as soon as the media
guilty
tells the story, the perception is that you're guilty.
Right.
And if you're not trying to prove your innocence from the jump, if you're relying on the system saying, well, I'm innocent to proven guilty, that's a trick. Right?
Absolutely.
So you have to take the mindset that this is a trick. This is a perception. They're trying to lure me to sleep.
Absolutely.
They're trying to tell me that this is, in theory, this is how it's supposed to be.
Right.
In practice, it's not.
Absolutely.
Right? In theory, the prosecutor is supposed to seek justice and truth. In practice, he's looking at convictions.
Right. Not dealing forced blows.
He's dealing convictions, right?
Right.
In practice, his number one goal is to get a conviction because that's how he gets promoted.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
Period. He's not worried about the truth. He's worried about how do I get a conviction? How do I take these facts and manipulate these facts to sell the perception to the jury
To benefit my
that
position.
this individual is guilty.
Right.
Right? He's not looking at the evidence as a prosecutor to say where is the truth? Where is the truth in this matter?
Right.
No, that's not how prosecutors look at it. Even though case law says that he's supposed to be looking at it that way.
And he's not able to deal forced blows.
Yeah, he's not.
Right.
Yeah. He's going to build all the false blows in the world.
Yeah,
and you got to kind of know that they're trying to lure you to sleep with all this theory about how the law is supposed to work.
Right.
We know that because we went through it.
Right.
But when I first went through it, before I became aware of how corrupt and unjust the system was, I believed it.
Right.
Which is why when I was going through trial, I just knew that if the truth is going to prevail and justice is going to prevail, I was going to win.
Right.
So I wasn't really worried about it as much. Because I
rocked to sleep.
I was rocked to sleep.
Right.
Yeah. So I would say to your audience and to the individuals that you're trying to reach out to, don't be rocked to sleep by that. Right. You know, just understand that they tell you have this right and this right in theory, but it's up to you in practice to make sure that you assert it because it's not automatic. It's not, even though they say you got a guaranteed right, you don't got a guaranteed right.
No.
You got to enforce and you got to make them honor the right that they say that you're guaranteed, because it's just not going to be given to you. You got to assert that and assert it forcefully, even against the people that are going to persuade you otherwise. But also be willing to kind of deal with the consequence, whatever that is.
And let's be honest, you know, we coming from where we come from. None of us are versed in law. Majority of us, should I say, are not versed in law. So we somewhat believe what's being said by our attorneys, and then we get in these courtrooms thinking that because we done paid this hot shot attorney, that everything's going to be all right, that we good, and you know what I'm saying, 99.9 times out of 10, that's not the case. You about to go up north, you know what I'm saying?
No question. You bring up a good point because I think coming up, let me just check.
Yeah.
Because coming up in the inner cities and not being properly educated, even through the school systems. Right. The school systems in the inner city are watered down. They're watered down. Right. It's just that simple. It's like, if I could just save 1 out of 10, I succeed. Motherfucker, if I take a test and I get 1 right out of 10, I'm failing. That's what I say, right? That's like a 10% out of 9.
How are you happy with that type of?
You can't do that, right? So my thought process is, you know, you just have to understand that the system it works, right? But you have to be educated. Right. And I think, at least me, when I came in, I undervalued the importance of a solid education.
Absolutely.
And I put a lot of power in money.
As we all did, I believe.
Right,
you know
right. So
that's foolish.
We thought that cash was power, money is power. The song, you know, money talks, all that stuff. And it does to a degree. Right. But what's more important than money is your intellect.
Absolutely.
Right? Because money, when you have money, what are you paying for? You're paying for somebody else's intellect. Right. When you pay a lawyer, you're giving him money to use his intellect to free you.
Right.
But if you have your own intellect,
you can free yourself.
You can free yourself.
Right.
There it is.
Right.
And
proof is in the pudding.
Proof is in the pudding, right?
We've done this 3 times over. You know what I mean?
So money can
4
buy you.
times.
So money can buy you influence,
Right.
right? But money doesn't buy you intellect. Money is
Absolutely
not. Money is not. That's why even the scriptures say money is the root to all evil, right? Now that doesn't mean you can't like it and you can't use it.
Right.
You just
Nah.
gotta understand it has limited power,
Right.
Right? Your power is in your
It's not the
intellect.
end all to be
Your
all.
power is in your intellect, and then your power is in your credibility. Because when the jury finds you innocent or guilty, they do it based on the credibility of witnesses
Right.
and prosecutors and police. So if you're walking in there, you don't have any individual credibility, you're already lost.
Right.
So what we need to be doing as black men is establishing our individual credibility,
Absolutely.
not street credibility.
That's your credit.
Right. That's your credit.
That's your credit.
And that's your power,
Right.
right? Not street credibility.
No.
You don't want street credibility.
No.
Street credibility feeds right into them. He's a thug.
That's their narrative.
Right? Credibility as a person means you're well learned,
Right.
you're well spoken, you present
These
well.
are the things that
you
you're doing
present
in the
well.
community.
Right, exactly. You present well and you're an honorable person.
Right.
It's hard to fight that.
Right.
It's hard to fight that no matter how much money
Right.
you have. Whether you got $10 in your pocket or you got $1,000 in your pocket. If you got credibility, right, that's gonna take you a lot further than any buying power your cash may have.
Because case in point, right? When we look back on these movies, certain movies where they're dealing with a prestige white family that child might have ran somebody over. The first thing they do is show you the community, the church people coming to their rescue.
Right.
They're filling the pews up. They're being there every step of the way. And when you see a child or somebody going through the legal system in the city, you see an aunt maybe, or you might see a cousin, but you never see the community come around this individual.
Yeah,
Very few.
no, but there's a lot of
Far in
factors.
between.
There's a lot of factors to that, and a lot of it is because in the inner cities there's very little unity
Right.
amongst our people, and because of the lack of unity, the devil, so to speak, is able to kind of invade that trust,
Right.
and then you have more people going against each other as opposed to standing for each other, right? And that also creates individuals that are afraid of each other.
Right.
Like, you from one part of town, I'm from one part of
Right.
town. We don't know each other. I'm automatically, because of the environment teaches me to be afraid of you because I don't know you. It doesn't teach me to come up to you and want to get to know you. Right? You from this part of town, I'm from this part of town. Oh, these niggas from this part of town don't get along with this part of town. We ain't got nothing to do with it. They're my fucking grandmothers, grandfathers, 30 fucking years ago. I don't know who you are. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we get indoctrinated with that fear that we don't even take the opportunity to get to know brothers from other parts of town because of we grew up in an environment where other parts of town were beefing before we were even born.
Right.
It took prison for us to
break them
open
walls.
up, to break those
Right.
walls, to get to know each other, because now we have something similar. We're
Right.
all in a struggle.
Yes.
So now we have a reason
Right.
to kind of get to know each
Absolutely.
other. And then when we start to know each other,
Right.
we start realizing all the lies and the truth behind what's going on in the inner cities.
He's actually a good man. That's my boy. He's a good dude.
Exactly.
Like, just to have a dialogue, some type of conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So once we start these conversations, now we're like, wow, what everybody was saying is not true.
not
you know
true.
what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he's humble
Yeah.
and he's respectful.
Right.
And if he was the person that you portrayed him to be,
You be lost.
Yeah.
Right? No one, I learned this, man. Someone can tell Adam Cameron about Scott Lewis, and someone can tell Scott Lewis about Adam Cameron. But until Scott Lewis and Adam Cameron sit down and get to know each other,
Right. They can't tell you nothing. I don't
you
wanna hear
could be
that.
tricked.
Right.
Right? And so what the narcotics used to do in New Haven, they used to go to different parts of town and spread rumors about other people from different parts of town. Now, these dudes are beefing based on lies that the police are saying,
Right.
but they're not intelligent enough to kind of talk to each other. They're just shooting at first sight.
Right.
And then that is kind of, in so many ways, I don't know if the police intend to do it, but the practice that the police are allowed to do by practicing deceptive tactics
Right.
is actually what incites all the violence
Yes.
in the discourse within the inner cities. But the courts say that police can use deceptive tactics.
Right.
But the brothers don't realize that police could be lying. They automatically think, even though they know the fucking police is dirty, they'll still believe the police
Right.
over you and won't even take the time to sit and talk to you.
Right.
They'll just be like, well, the police told me this,
Right.
that. Well, yeah, you know the cops are crooked. Well,
they said it.
If they said it,
It
got to be true. and that's what the jury says.
Right.
And so when they get the jury, because I had a jury all black people.
Right.
I was like, what the hell happened there? Right. It wasn't a jury all white people that convicted me. It was a jury all black people. And they was misled because they painted a picture that, oh, this guy was a drug dealer. So if he's a drug dealer, he's automatically guilty of something else, right? So it goes back to credibility, man, to brothers in the community. Don't get involved in things that are going to take away from your credibility as a person,
Yes.
right? And if you can kind of protect your credibility as a person, then that alone will carry you into another realm and level of life, right? Your credibility as a person. And then also reach out, travel, man. I would say travel. Go to places and get to know people for yourself.
Right.
Don't listen to what other people say about other people from other areas, right? Traveling is important, man. I would encourage you, man, if you get a chance to travel, man, travel internationally. Go to different countries. Meet people from different cultures. And I think that's the difference between me and a lot of my friends. Because when I was growing up in Fairhaven, I went to school in Hamden.
Right.
Eli Whitney.
Right.
So the school I went to was very diverse. I mean, you had people coming from East Haven, Hamden,
Right.
New Haven, all over the place.
It's a melting pot.
The people when Stefan went to school, Stefan, my brother, he went to school to Wilbur Cross.
Right.
All he saw was the people in the neighborhood.
Right.
He didn't see much. But Stefan was a well-traveled person. He was always going to South Carolina, boom. So he was also a well-rounded person from that perspective.
Right.
But a lot of brothers, they get trapped in those inner cities and they don't go any further outside of that. So they don't get the experience of knowing people from different cultures, right? And that, I think, kind of it shrinks the development of the individual because they only know what they know.
Right.
And if they're in an environment that is showing all of this, that's all they know. And they're not comfortable going in environments that are different because this is just all they know.
So, what in your mind, what is success to you?
Whoa. Success can be defined by a lot of different levels, but I also think it's subjective to the individual. Like you said, so success to me simply means I'm 60 years old right now. So contrary to what people may see inside of me, I'm trying to build a legacy.
Absolutely.
Because I understand that, we have kids, our kids have kids, our kids' kids have kids.
Right.
And if I'm not trying to set up a legacy so they can kind of follow into that past, to give them a step up, to prevent them from having to go through what we went through, then I'm not successful.
Right.
Now, because I'm the one that has to set that up, there's a lot of sacrifices, there's a lot of tough love. A lot of people here don't understand what I'm trying to do.
Right.
They only see what's here right in front of them now.
Right.
You got this, I got nothing.
Right. Right.
They don't understand that, okay, what I got, I'm trying to set up a legacy so you can have something.
Right.
But I need you to kind of follow the door. The door's not going to be open if you're not living a straight and narrow life because you're going to fuck it up for everybody else.
Right.
But when I leave, I need to, like, with Jay, my son Jay, I'm like, I got him here now. I'm saying, hey, bro, this is ours.
Right.
Right?
Right.
At some point, this is going to be yours, but I need to know you're going to be able to manage it.
Right.
I need to know that you're going to take care of it, you're going to honor it, and you're going to kind of be able to kind of maintain it, not destroy it.
Right.
Like that fucking building turned into like little bricks
Right.
all over the floor, but kind of build on it, right? And then you bring your kids into that. and then their kids bring your kids into that. So most people, like the Rockefellers, their grandfathers
Generation.
set what we're setting up now. So when their kids walked in, they walked in to already 2 steps up of everybody else.
Right.
So for me, success is being able to do that and leave that behind for my kids who are wanting to take advantage of it, but not squander it.
Right.
Because while I'm building it, I have to build it carefully. And although I wish I can let everybody in at the same time,
You just
can't. Because if you do, it'll never get built.
Right.
Right? And then I will be going away and there's nothing behind for anybody else because I let too many people in and everybody was inside destroying it instead of trying to help build it.
Right.
So the tough part is you got to be selectively letting people in slowly but surely, but they got to prove themselves worthy to kind of be invited in.
Absolutely.
Right? So for me, my success is going to be determined, 3-4 generations from now. Right. When your kids can say that their great grandfather set the foundation, and then my kids made it stronger, and then 300 years from now, the Lewis name is like the Rockefellers, right? But because we have to kind of set that up, and we have to work harder. Like I go off with this guy, Mark Mitchell. I'm good friends with Mark Mitchell. He runs Mitchell Motors. His family been in the auto business for 100 years. Okay. And sometimes he said, "Hey Scott, let's go play golf." I said, "Mark, I don't got the luxury of playing golf.
Right.
I wish I can play. Right. But you were born into that legacy where you can take the time off and do that. I can go once in a while, but I can't spend 8 hours a day on a freaking golf course because what I'm trying to build is not built yet. What you built is your grandfather's built. So you're just walking in and managing what was already built.
Legacy.
Right. We're building stuff, from one rock at a time. Right. So to me, that's what my success would be. Somebody else's success would be, hey man, if I can make it to 35, I'm good. Right. And at one time, that was my mindset. When I was on the streets, I was like, yo, brothers are getting killed before they was 25. Yeah. If I make 26, I succeeded. Yeah. If you live to be 26 in New Haven and everybody getting shot and killed by that time they're 25, some people be like, good. Some other people be like, yo, my success is I get a high school diploma. It's like, huh? Yeah. What? That's you feel happy with just getting a high school diploma. You should want more. Yeah. But some people think if I get a high school diploma, I made it. And it's sad because the environment in New Haven says, get your GED, get a high school diploma. Right. It's not promoting people to get hired. They're like, be sad. If you get your GED, you have succeeded. Yeah. I'm like, right. That's crazy. That's like getting 1 right on a test. And you 1 out of 10. You got a program say if we can say 1 out of 10, our program is a success. In my eyes, that they're a failure. You give me 9 out of 10, then you got something. Now we got something to talk about. Right.
Man, listen, man, this has been an eye opener, a well needed conversation to be had.
First of many, bro.
You got that right.
You know what I mean?
Listen, man.
First of many.
I'm definitely going to lean on you, call on you. Hopefully we can do this again with a couple other brothers that's been out and just doing remarkable things because it's a need to see that. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then identify that it's not lost. Like we're here and we're a community that's growing. And
well, I can say this, man. I'm so proud of you, man. Oh, as a brother and being passionate about this show. And I think the way that we came about this, I think it's your calling. And I think that a lot of brothers in our positions, like me, are going to be knocking on your door to get on this show because all of us have a story to tell, and we all kind of have that brotherhood of wanting to help younger people so they don't have to go through the shit that we went through. Absolutely. And that includes people that were wrongfully convicted and people who made some mistakes and want to change their life. Right? So I always found out in prison, You could be innocent or guilty.
Right.
You all in it together,
Absolutely.
no matter what. And I met some people that made some bad mistakes, but they're
They
really
were great
good people,
right?
right?
And doing some good things.
Doing some great things.
And for those that reached out to me through Facebook and things of that nature, I want to thank you for the support. And listen, it's not a go unanswered. Just give me some time. And listen, this is for us, by us. You know what I'm saying? And hopefully there's many to come.
It's gonna happen, brother, because you're passionate about it.
Thank
You already know you're a champion. You already know you're a conqueror, brother.
Yeah.
You already know that
I know.
if you put your mind to something and you're determined to do it, you're gonna succeed, right?
Yeah.
The fact that you're sitting there, you know your story where you were to where you are right now. Come on. You ain't got no choice but to be successful. As long as you stick true to your character, you're good. Nothing can stop you, bro.
Thank everybody for joining Locked Up and Locked Out. This is the first of many episodes. And I'm Adam Conlon, your host.
Scott Lewis.
Mr. Scott Lewis.
All right.
Thank you again.